Change series of webinars. Hope you're all safe and sound in your homes while we continue to bring the world's leading experts to you. And today we have a special surprise for you. We have with us Mr. Glenn Bill, who's India's #1 high-performance attitude speaker. He's the author of the Amazon #1 bestseller, The ABCs of Attitude. Discover the secret formula to achieve success in your personal and business life, increase your emotional intelligence, and get attitude. Glenn received his real estate license at the age of 19, pioneered his way through the top before wisely purchasing a national franchisee within 4 years. Through passion, vision, drive, and innate skill, he applied the principles found in his book, The ABCs of Attitude, to grow his organization into a multi-million-dollar revenue-generating company and top-tier national franchisee. Glenn's clients include Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies. He's also appeared and been referenced on several platforms like NBC, Fox, HLN, the Indianapolis Star, and the Wall Street Journal. Welcome, Glenn. We're so glad to have you with us today.
Well, it is so good, Sarabi.
Sarabi, yes.
I know that we have some feedback, so we want to make sure we only have one microphone, but I think we're good now.
Right. Glenn, my first question to you is, we're doing an entire series about managing change in the times of COVID-19. And you've been an expert in the domain of creating high performance in times of change. So how do you think the COVID-19 is going to disrupt the business sector and our lives?
Well, it's disrupted, correct? I mean, we're all in a different place. We're all doing business differently. We're all decentralized now. We're all on our own, and we're forced to create connections through this thing called technology. And although disruption breeds us many challenges, disruption also creates many opportunities. And it creates opportunities for those who want to embrace it, and for those that see the opportunity within the challenge. And one of my favorite sayings is we cannot succeed in business. We cannot succeed in life until we succeed in our minds first. And that is what I do. I founded the University of Attitude, and I help companies, teams, and major large corporations focus on their mind power and how that can increase morale, how that can increase productivity, and how that can increase profits. See, it's not the people that sit back and wait for COVID to end. It is the people that are actually out thriving, acting, and doing something about the disruption that happens. We know that this disruption will pass just like any other disruption. And it's the people who are out doing interviews like this, that are out proactively doing things just like you are, that are setting them up for the big win. Now is not the time to waste time. Now is not the time to sit and look around and wonder what's happening. Now is the time to sit around and make things happen. And I can tell you at the University of Attitude, we are busier now than ever. And we are helping people answer these 4 questions. Number 1, who are you? Who are you really, and what are you all about? Number 2, where are you in your business? Where are you in your mind? Where are you in your personal relationships? Number 3, what do I need to do, right? My good mentor, Jeffrey Gitomer, talks about a lot of people are binge watching Netflix, they're binge eating, they're binge drinking, and we're encouraging people to binge learn, to binge grow, to binge investigate, to binge give value. So many folks are sitting there binging on doing things that are not going to improve their lives or the lives of others. The next question I always like to ask people is, who do I need to become, right? Through a goal setting process, we talk about having goals. I mean, have you set goals for the new normal after disruption? And we know that we don't set goals for what we obtain and what they give to us, but we set goals to help us become who we are meant to be. When we look at who we wish to be, what we wish to do, and what we wish to have, we do that through goal setting. And we know in order to obtain a higher level and high performance, we cannot stay the person that we are. We must transform and become somebody that is better than we are. And then I always love to ask people, what are you doing right now to feel great? Because we know the mind is important, but we know that the emotions are the fuel that drive this car of the mind. Why we do what we do is simply this: it's fueled by the emotional needs that we all have. It's the fuel that drives us, and not just how we feel, but what are you doing to not only feel great, but what are you doing to be great? And I can tell you this: if your people are watching you every day with these interviews, they're at least doing something to be great. But more importantly, what they should be doing is sharing these videos with everybody they know and the people they need to know it most, and tell them to stop watching junk television and start watching Speak in APAC, because there's some wonderful messages here. And I salute you, Sarabi, for going out and trying to have a positive voice and a positive influence on this thing called COVID-19.
Thank you so much, Glenn. And that's a wonderful message. All of you should watch Speak in APAC's videos.
Yes.
Well, that gets me to the next question. I think you've already answered a part of it. What can people and businesses do during these times so as to avoid panic and confusion, and at the same time align themselves with the change that's happening around?
Well, you know, what people can do, you know, I kind of answered that obviously already, but what people need to understand, it's more importantly what they shouldn't do. They should limit their time on the media, the news, right? The news is telling us nothing good, and we know that the news may or may not be completely 100% true. The news is not going to help make you a better father, a better husband, a better person, a better leader. All it's going to do is create confusion and panic, which is what you just asked me. So I want people to stop focusing on the world and start focusing on their world. And that's what they need to do. There are things that are uncontrollable. And there's these things called the uncontrollables, right? Or there's unknowns. But the more important thing is there's unknown unknowns. And so many people get caught up in what is unknown and what is not controllable. And that creates uncertainty. And that's what causes panic and confusion. So not that I encourage people to become completely self-absorbed, but people never have the time to become better as people, to work on themselves. Well, that excuse is gone now. We all have time. We all have the ability to improve our minds, improve the way we think, and to grow. See, the question is how are you going to emerge from this time? And what you should be focusing on is yourself, not your world. And so when this thing bottoms out, which it's going to, and we're receiving some good news so far right now that things are starting to subside, are you going to sit there and go, I just wasted 45 to 60 days worrying, being confused, and in a time of crisis? Or did I embrace this time to position myself to emerge as a leader and to be able to serve even more? It's the people that are doing and acting more that are going to have 10 times the influence when this thing passes. And so that's the real opportunity with what's going on.
Absolutely, as you said, Bill. I mean, one has to upskill oneself, and there's no better time than now. You're all sitting at home, you all have the time to do that, and there's so many platforms to do that, thankfully, and the technology to help. So, I mean, there is no excuse right now.
Yes. Well, there's plenty of excuses. Right? There's plenty of people that make excuses, and my favorite quote about excuses are, I don't trust excuses, right? But I don't trust people that make excuses. I don't trust them even more. And so the bottom line is excuses are going to get you nowhere. And that gets down to self-talk and self-belief. But I'll let you continue with your interview because I could go on and on for hours with you. So what's your next one?
So, well, the next one is that globally businesses have suffered and sales have gone down. So, what type of businesses do you feel have been the most affected in terms of total sales made?
Well, I tell you the businesses that have been most affected, liquor stores. They're selling more liquor than ever, right? 3M and the people that make masks, they're doing more business than ever. People that make hospital beds, more business than ever. So yeah, there are people in businesses who are suffering, but there are also people in businesses who are absolutely thriving. Hand sanitation companies. How about Zoom? Zoom went from 20 million users to 200 million users, right? So, you know, everything is a balance. And the bottom line is, yeah, they've been affected negatively, but just like with every pandemic or every disruption, there are also boats that rise because necessity is the mother of invention. And sometimes Warren Buffett said, never let a crisis go to waste. There are businesses that are thriving. So what should you do if you're a global business, right? You should be looking at how to fill the need, how to help adjust your business until this time happens. But the best thing you can probably do is find your best customers and figure out how to help them in their businesses. And if you want to win big and you want to go on a steep upslope when this happens, your customers aren't going to forget what you've done for them. So that's my thought on global sales.
Wonderful, Glenn. So with that, we have a question from the attendees. This Kirti was asking a question. She's asking, what are your suggestions with reference to the education sector and what all changes are required in the education industry?
So in the education sector, right? So is she talking about grade school, high school, colleges, that type of thing?
Yes, yes.
And she's wanting to know, what would I suggest that they do?
What changes do you think are required?
What changes? Well, I mean, obviously they're changing. They're moving everything to online, correct? And so online learning is a lot different than personal learning. I'm not sure that, you know, I'm not sure that I have the answer to help our educational sector. I know that in America, at least, what is being taught in our colleges and how colleges are being manipulated by government, student loans, and all the forces that happen into education. The question is are our college graduates prepared to engage with a world that is full of disruption? Or are they learning facts and figures and methods that are from a world that was pre-pandemic? And so what I think needs to happen is keep the structure, keep everything the way it is. But I think we need to start teaching our young people the things that I'm teaching, which is called attitude-based sales. See, there's no attitude courses that I know of in grade school or high school. Maybe in college they're starting to get into it, attitude and personal development. But the bottom line is that, you know, the sciences are, look at the sciences need to be taught, right? English and language needs to be taught. But is the pre-COVID-19 education one that arms with full bullets our students with guns to go out and take over businesses, manage through disruption, lead through times of crisis? You know, I'm not sure. So maybe some new curriculum might be good. Maybe helping students understand that the world isn't necessarily a fair or nice place, and they better get their minds right because the world's an insane place, and it's full of influence. It's full of influence that is negative, And your ability to manage that through emotion and thinking is paramount. So that's my thought. I don't know if that's good, but those would be my thoughts if there is any change.
Thank you. And I think she has one more question. Do you
Yes.
think the business houses would be able to meet the needs and requirements of the people during this time, as in food, clothing, ventilators? Do you think across countries, we'll be able to meet the upcoming needs?
Okay, and so slow down just a little bit. I want to understand the question. You're asked, go ahead and ask it to me again.
Do you think the business houses or the government would be able to meet the needs and requirements of people during this time in terms of food, clothing, and other requirements of ventilators?
Well, yeah, I think the business world could help. Certainly they could help, right? But let's be honest, and I've been speaking about this. Do you know how many people die of starvation in the world every year? 9 million people die every year from starvation. And so when we look at Corona, how many might die? 1 million? 1 year? But there are 9 million people that are dying of starvation every year, year after year. And what do the businesses do for them? Not a damn thing. So do they have the power to help with food, clothing, and shelter? Yes. Will they? No. Because you know what? The world is a very, very tough place. And unfortunately, people perish. But the quote is, where there is no vision, the people perish. So what we need to be working on is a vision, a new vision that can help more, that can treat in pandemics, that help countries be more prepared and more stable when things like this happen. But the bottom line is this is nothing compared to people who starve and die on our planet every single year that nobody seems to care about right now. And as I talk to people that are so worried and concerned about this pandemic, I always like to ask them, how was your breakfast and your lunch and your dinner? As far as I know, people are still eating 3 meals a day, and they're still better off than those children all over our world who have nothing to eat, who have not been fed for weeks. And so to me, there's a more immediate need. There's a bigger problem than what we have. And the fact that there's that many people that die of starvation shakes me to the core. And I understand the horrific things that are going on with COVID. I salute our nurses and our doctors and our healthcare industry, and I salute our businesses that are trying to help. But the reality is the world's a pretty tough place. And this isn't the biggest pandemic that we are facing in the world, in my opinion. Those are the numbers.
Horrific, absolutely. You don't even think about it day to day. One thing that affects you when you don't can't go about it. So yes. That's right. So
What else can I answer for our guests?
well, I think that is it for now for this question, but I do have more questions.
Okay,
So
sure.
that's fine now. So once the world reopens and starts getting back to equilibrium, can we expect some effects of the ongoing crisis that are going to persist for a long time? And how do you think we should stay mentally prepared to tackle that?
Well, I think just as we ignore world starvation, just as we ignore bad news, this too will pass. And I believe COVID will be out of the consciousness of the American mind and of the world mind until the next big issue comes. We have had natural disaster after natural disaster. They happen quite often, whether it be earthquake, hurricanes, pandemics, 9/11, war. Look at the world moves on. The equilibrium will get back. The reset will happen. And the bottom line is, how do we stay mentally prepared to tackle it? Trust me, nature is going to dictate that you get caught up and that you keep moving forward, or you're going to be left behind. People that are trying to stay mentally prepared to find out what the new world order are going to be, there's an old saying, you're either on the bus or under the bus. And when this thing happens, there's going to be a bus, and you better be on it, because what I think is what you're going to see is extreme growth. You're going to see a more faster, a quicker pace of life, even more than it was, which is sad, because I think maybe we do move too fast, and then people are going to be saying, how do we slow down more, right? Because the one thing about disruption is that disruption never stops, and disruption in your life never stops. We are inundated with disruption. 80% of the messages from the media and advertising and everything we see and do. See, disruption is ongoing. It is a norm. And so to mentally prepare for that is this: start living, start controlling what you can control, become a better person, understand how to leverage your attitude, and understand how to win in your mind and think for yourself. And don't give up your mind to other people. See, today, now more than ever, is a fight for your mind. And advertisers and political parties and media are all fighting for the 6 inches of real estate between your ears. And it's a fight. And the only person that can defend your mind is you. And so content like this that you're bringing is important to help with what we call attitude awareness. Being aware of how I'm thinking and really sitting down and saying, what's going through the most important 6 inches of my body every day.
Yeah, start living is the key here.
Yes.
That is the message to take away.
Thank you.
So Glenn, corporate culture has seen a vast change during these times and has practically validated the culture of working from home. In these times, supervisors are not directly working in presence of their teams. And this creates a problem, and there's a tendency to expect a lot not really working. So how can one develop the emotional intelligence to understand what's going on in the mind of the employees?
Right. So it's practically validated, but it has not validated it. And I think that if you polled everybody that works from home, that has been through this change, when they say the pandemic is over, you have a choice. You can stay at home and do whatever you want, just like you were doing, or you can get back with the people. I would guess that more than 80% would say, I'd like to go back with my coworkers, right? Why? Because human connection is primal. It is within us. And I can assure you that the way things are operating now has not been practically validated. I think if anything, what we are finding is human connection, the need for human connection. That is what is being validated. That is what is being craved. It doesn't mean that these aren't productive. That doesn't mean that decentralizing your employees can't be productive. But we know for optimum productivity and profit at the University of Attitude, people will always do more for other people than they will do for themselves. Attitude booster number 10, be a part of something bigger than you. See, it gives people a sense of purpose, a sense of cause, but mostly what being a part of something bigger than you and this thing called human connection, it gives you energy, it gives you vitality, it gives you a purpose, and it is what we are meant for. We are not meant as human beings to be in an 8x11 room quarantined. That's not what we're meant for. That's not primal. It's not what's in our inner core. It's not what's in our nervous system. So my belief is this: corporate culture is going to be fine. Corporate culture is going to be really fine if they call up Glenn Bill and say, get into my culture and talk to us about what we need to do to grow our business, to grow our morale, to grow our productivity, thus creating higher profits. And that's what I do. So I believe that, we are going to see brighter days. It's always darkest before the dawn. Attitude booster number 8 is love adversity. We're in a time of adversity, but you need to learn to embrace the adversity that is sitting in front of us and understand the true gift that adversity makes. It creates and builds perseverance, right? Adversity is the mother of perseverance. And if you want to be considered a person of perseverance, you want to be considered a company of perseverance, here's what I'm telling you right now. You better love adversity, and you better embrace the time, and you better figure out who you want to be, and you better figure out what you want to do when this passes. Those are my thoughts. Did that answer your question?
It does.
Cool. Sorry for the shameless plug, but what am I going to do?
Not wrong. So I think you have to call you, and the companies have to call you basically, to answer most of the questions and get going with the, attitude thing. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to suggest that to all the clients, definitely.
Oh, wonderful. I'll come and blow you guys away. We'd love to get there in India, and we'll get people together, behind each other, cheering each other, lifting each other up. That's what I do. I get inside the hearts and minds of companies by getting inside the hearts and minds of individuals within the companies and creating an alignment of thinking and attitude that benefits all. That's really what my passion is and what I'm made for.
That's fine. So
what else do you have? Do you have more questions for me?
I do, and I'm sure our audience will too in a while once we're done with ours. So,
okay.
Yeah. What role does the corporate leadership play in taking the company through these times and ensuring that the business doesn't risk being shut down?
So the corporate culture, corporate leadership, right? Leadership is something that I speak about, and there are attitudes of leaders, right, that can be followed and that can be modeled. Leaders need to be very, very smart. The first thing leaders need to understand is that leadership, and I got this from the great John Addison, leadership is not a position. It's a disposition, okay? Leaders need to quit saying, I'm a leader, I'm the president, I have this title. Nobody cares, right? Leaders need to be a lighthouse in times of turmoil and crisis. So the first thing leaders need to do is understand that it's not a position, it's a disposition. It's not the fact that you are the leader, it's how you lead that matters. And you need to be strong, you need to create certainty, you need to give information that is relevant and valuable, and you need to look past your employees and the folks that work with you outside of their tasks and their jobs. We know this, the number one reason that people will stay and work harder for a company is because the company is helping them outside of their business. They're helping them with things like personal development. They're helping them become better fathers, better mothers, better friends, and most of all, better people. So I believe, not to be self-serving, that the more leaders help people become better people, the more retention they will have, the higher output they will get. And we know that when an employee feels that their leader actually cares about them, can identify with them and knows them, they'll stay and work for nothing because that is invaluable. The second thing that leaders need to know is that the pressure is a privilege. There are leaders right now that are buckling, they're worried, they're making bad decisions because they don't have the right disposition, and they're not embracing the challenge, they're not embracing the adversity, and they're not embracing the pressure that they're under. And to really take that in and to identify the pressures of every person that's working for them and give them answers on how to deal with the pressure that their workers are facing. And then I just think the last thing, and I have 10 of these, but I think mostly leaders need to tell the truth, right? They need to tell, and I got that one from General Schwarzkopf. I was fortunate enough to be with him one time and listen to him speak. And he said, you know, it's important that you tell your troops the truth. And if we are at a time of war, you need to be honest with your people. I think you need to be transparent because it will be returned and it will be appreciated. But most importantly, leaders need to tell the truth to themselves. Leaders need to do a self-check and say, am I up to the challenge of leading these people? And am I the person that I need to be, right, in order to lead these people? And if I'm not, then I need to seek out people that have the abilities and talents to help me grow as a leader. Because a lot of leaders, let's face it, in business, they're there because they're analytical. They're there because they're very smart people. And they're there because they're brilliant, right? But when it comes to the human interaction part of the leadership, they may be lacking. And there are leaders on the other end that are there simply because their human interaction skills are off the charts, but they're not really smart people. And so there needs to be a meld of that. And whether you're a leader that is high on the spectrum of connection or high on the spectrum of knowledge, you need to find the yin and the yang of who that could be. And you always need to work for that. So that's what I would say to our leaders out there.
Just for the audience, we're taking the last question from Glenn, and then we'll be open to audience questions. So Glenn, what advice would you like to give to the sales and business development teams to get through these times?
Well, the final advice is I'd like you to join the University of Attitude on Facebook. I'm on Facebook every day at 3 o'clock doing 3 o'clock my time, which is probably the middle of the night for you, but you can watch rewinds. And, you know, is to simply do this. Use this time. Don't waste this time to position yourself, to learn, and to emerge from what is happening. See the future. I want you to do something called future casting. What does the world look like in 90 days? But more importantly, what does your world look like in 90 days? And here's the reality. You're not going to be able to change what the world looks like in 90 days. And you may or may not be right. But I can tell you one thing for sure. If you say this is what my world's going to look like in 90 days, that is something that you can completely control. That is something that you can focus on. That is something that will eliminate the confusion, eliminate the doubt, eliminate the panic. Because you know what? In order to serve your customers, you have to become the best you. I would also tell you to engage with your customers, especially your best customers, at a higher level and find out how you can help them more than any time you've helped them before, at a greater level you've helped them before. And when this ends, I promise you, you will be positioned for greatness. And third, I would say, don't doubt yourself. Understand that each and every person that is on this call has $1 million idea. Each and every person on this call has a vision, something deep in their gut that they know they should be doing. And if you're one of those people that knows maybe you should be doing something different, now may be the best time to say, boy, I can create something new. Maybe there's people that aren't listening to you, that aren't listening to your ideas. I am going to tell you that the world and employers and venture capitalists and entrepreneurs are going to be looking for people that are shining stars, that are bright, that have something to say that's different. And now this COVID-19 is going to present you with the biggest opportunity to change and accelerate your life now more than ever. That's the blessing that is wrapped up in this. Resets are for those of us who are not where we wish to be, and they provide the opportunity to be heard and to be launched into greatness, the greatness that is within each and every person that's on this call.
So Glenn, we have a question. What are some of the things that businesses should not do in these times of crisis?
Right. So the one thing businesses should not do is disengage with their employee base, right? Businesses should not fearmonger. Businesses should not disseminate quote unquote negative news and create even more pressure on their workers. Businesses, and I realize if they have the ability, businesses should not pull the reins in. Now's the time to market. Businesses should not put a sheet over their head and pull back, right? Businesses should not fear. Businesses should not listen to people that are more dumb than they are, right? I love it. I always say this: I never take advice from someone more messed up than me. And trust me, there are a lot of people that are messed up giving advice. So those are a few things that they should do. They should not do, I should say.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you here.